Hey everyone, my name is Ariel Neidermeier. I'm an astrologer, back again to give you your astrological forecast for the month of October. Here we go. I remember looking at the astrology for all of 2020 at the beginning of the year, pre-pandemic, pre-everything, and thinking to myself, damn, that's gonna be the most shocking month of the year. So I understand that this is shocking probably in and of itself because September was no cakewalk. And very literally, the day that Mars went retrograde, like if you were in the United States, the entire West Coast was on fire, in a very, bittersweet way. It's an honor to be witness to such a literal manifestation of astrology, but it truly was. The world was on fire out here. I think the key word for this month, September was about rage and fire. October is really about shock and disruption. And in a larger ideal, it's about liberation, which I'm going to get to. But what I would like to talk about is the full moon on October 1st in Aries. Mercury will be going retrograde on October 13th, and then finally we have another big tumultuous full moon in Taurus on October 31st, the day of Halloween. So let's get into it. We have a really fiery full moon, right? The first day of the month on October 1st. 2 days prior to that, on September 29th, there is an aspect. Mars retrograde is squaring Saturn. And so in a lot of ways, that aspect is kind of like moving into the full moon, and they sort of represent each other to me. This full moon, it's super inflammatory and very reactive, and to me, it just kind of re-highlights that Mars retrograde energy of feeling really frustrated and upset at what's going on in the world and how it's affecting you in your life, feeling enraged by that, but then also feeling like you don't have the ability to do anything about it because of the interaction that Mars is having with Saturn. And Saturn is, all about delays and frustration and kind of like holding back a little bit. So what I would say about this full moon is watch your reactions, sit with it. I think it's really healthy and cleansing to be moving through your distress and your, your rage about everything that's coming to light, especially in the United States. I think it's important to be mindful of your reactions and if they're productive or not, is how I would put it. Next up, let's talk about Mercury retrograde on October 13th. This will be a retrograde in Scorpio. So again, we still have Mars in retrograde. That will be happening until November 13th. And now we're adding the Mercury retrograde into it as well. A lot of people who don't know anything about astrology know about sort of the annoying vibe of Mercury retrograde. It's like miscommunications, travel delays, things breaking, like your computer, like getting a flat tire, things like that. This retrograde to me is like a little atypical insofar as like Mercury's really in interaction with Uranus a lot. And so Mercury is the planet of communication in all its forms, whether that be speech, written, or even the mail. It's actually the planet of the mail system. So I also just want to point out that this Mercury retrograde is going to be occurring from October 13th until the day of the election on November 3rd. November 4th is really when it leaves its retrograde. So it's really important that this whole conversation of mail-in ballots, that you be voting early and if possible in person, because again, Mercury rules the mail. And so, inconsistencies, mishaps with the mail system, it's gonna happen. Yeah, it's gonna happen. And just on that little value, also please vote. Everyone should be voting. Please vote if you live in the United States. It's really important for you to be doing your civic duty with intention and staying awake during this time. So that's my little hit there. But yeah, also the thing about this retrograde is that it's bookended with Mercury actually opposing Uranus. So Mercury is the planet of communication. Uranus is the liberator. It's also the planet of shock value. And These two planets are going to be directly opposed to each other, both on October 7th and also on October 19th. And so that aspect, this Mercury opposed Uranus aspect, in a short phrase, it's shocking communication or information. Shocking information. So it just so happens that the first time this aspect happens, right before Mercury goes retrograde on October 7th, is the day of the vice presidential debate. So shocking information coming out of that debate should be expected. The second time this opposition happens is October 19th. And, you know, between Mercury going retrograde on the 13th and then the 19th, when Mercury opposes Uranus again, we will be having our second presidential debate, if all goes to schedule, on October 15th. So again, shocking communication. Yeah, and, you know, let's talk. I was going to save it to the end, but, you know, we're here. We're in this together. Astrologers are not insulated from the distress of what is going on in the world. I am just as stressed out, troubled, incredibly angry about everything, just like you are. I fully empathize with everything. Like, I'm pissed as hell as a United States citizen, as a feminine presenting individual. I'm very disturbed by everything, and I'm at a loss. What astrology can do that's quite comforting is it allows you the ability to zoom out on a situation and realize that we are always just in a cycle. Astrology is the study of time and cycles, and being able to take a bird's eye view on the energetics of the planets and the aspects at play helps me be able to see that, okay, so this is really uncomfortable right now, but we're moving towards a greater good, to a more evolved state, to something, you know? And so the thing about Uranus is it brings liberation that's incredibly uncomfortable, but the reason it's uncomfortable and the reason why it's liberating is because it truly does shock the system. And oftentimes you need that shock to happen so that you are shocked into taking a different view, a different angle on something, to untether you from viewing the world the way you always have, from lulling yourself to sleep in the status quo. We are meant to be untethered right now, to be liberated into realizing that we need to have a more expansive vision of what is normal and what should be. You're meant to have the cords cut right now. And when I say that, I mean, like, you're meant to feel like nothing is sure, everything is unstable, and that the only one who's going to save you is yourself. That's truly the point of October. And what we're moving into is, like, where we're really headed is in December with the Great Conjunction. To me, October is when a lot of things crystallize so that we really know what we're dealing with, so that we can enter the new era of human history, which is going to kick off with the Great Conjunction in December, which is something I'll save for the December forecast. But we are moving in a certain way, but this is all for the greater good of liberation, and I know it's really uncomfortable. Yeah, and then the full moon in Taurus at the very end of the month on Halloween, the 31st. Usually, you know, a full moon in Taurus is really delicious and grounding because the moon loves to be in Taurus. It's exalted in Taurus, but this full moon is also conjunct Uranus, so again, it's going to feel more like an earthquake. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was like some last big disruption right before the election. I mean, just expect that. Expect that in the entire lead up to the election, there's going to be a lot of earthquakes, a lot of lightning strikes, and it's supposed to be shocking because it's going to shock you awake. And if you've been asleep, you will be awake now. Like, you will no longer be asleep after October. If you've been hitting the snooze button, you won't be able to anymore. It will be undeniable. So, I want you all to be comforted by the fact that, like, we are transforming. This is the chrysalis. I mean, this is our becoming, truly. And you're here for a reason. And you're also you're going to be witness to a new era, like literally a new time. The world is changing before your eyes, and you get a front row seat. So welcome. And I wish you all the best in October. If this video was helpful, informative, comforting, or if it just scared the shit out of you, whatever it did, please like and share. And I really appreciate you all tuning in. We're all in this together, and I'll see you in November. Catch me on Spot the Witch on Instagram. Bye, everyone.